This last year, my grandmother on my father's side died after a long and painful struggle against many illnesses. In her final years, my grandma was almost entirely dependent on the help of others, mainly her children. My father came home at least 3 times a week with stories of her struggles. Grandma fell down in the bathroom, he would tell my mom, and Colleen had to clean her up again. Can you imagine having your own child have to take care of you like that, cleaning you while you lay helpless on the floor? My grandma couldn't help it, but it still made her depressed, and unfortunately, it would only get worse. She lost hair, sleep, and control of her own body. In a week, she became deathly skinny after being a fairly heavy woman. Her progression towards death was slowed by her medical treatments, but it was hard to watch and hard for her to experience. My parents stressed about making sure that she could afford medical attention and making sure that the stress didn't tear my father and his siblings apart. Amidst all of this heartache, my grandma passed away in pain. After her death, I began to wonder if there were ways we could have helped my grandma feel she could keep her dignity, as well as helped my family have closure on my grandmother's situation. One thing came to mind. If my grandmother should so choose, why not give her the option of euthanasia? If she chose, she could have died in peace in her sleep, without pain. She could have lived one more day, seeing everyone she loved, and she could have saved her children the heartache and hardship of her slow struggle to death. I looked to see if it would have been an option for her. Unfortunately, physicians-assisted euthanasia is not legal in New York State. This needs to change. My grandmother deserved the right to a peaceful death through euthanasia. Euthanasia is defined by the National Cancer Institute as, quote, an easy or painless death, or the intentional killing of somebody with an incurable or painful disease at his or her request, end quote. According to the U.S. National Library of Medicine, physicians-assisted euthanasia is legal in California, Washington, Oregon, Vermont, and Montana as of 2016. That leaves 45 states without legal options for physicians-assisted euthanasia, despite the fact that this public support for euthanasia has plateaued since the 1990s at around 47 to 69%. Despite euthanasia's public support, people do not have access to it in 45 of the 50 states, including my home state of New York. When my grandfather, on my father's side, wanted to end his life, he wasn't given any safe options either. My grandfather was refused the option of euthanasia, so he took matters into his own hands. One day, my grandpa refused to eat. He told people he wasn't hungry. Being a diabetic, my grandpa's refusal to eat caused him to have a diabetic attack and die. Both my grandpa and my grandma were not given the options they deserved. Why do we as a people insist to deny the option of a peaceful death to our loved ones, all for our own peace of mind? We preserve life without ever asking if it is worth preserving. Euthanasia should be given as an option to all in the U.S., no matter where you live. My grandpa deserved that option. My grandma deserved that option. We all deserve that option, even if we do not choose to use it. Many who argue against euthanasia worry that it would run out of control, that if it was legalized, it would become all too prevalent. However, only 0.3 to 4.6% of all deaths are reported as physicians-assisted suicide or euthanasia in the jurisdictions where it is legal. Quote, in the United States, less than 20% of physicians report having received requests for euthanasia or physicians-assisted suicide, end quote. This is according to the U.S. National Library of Medicine. Another point that those opposed to the legalization of euthanasia argue is that it goes against the Hippocratic oath taken by doctors. However, only 14% of modern oaths explicitly state that euthanasia is not allowed. This is according to the Nova newsletter by PBS. It is clear that many of the concerns by those opposed to euthanasia are unfounded. The most prevalent argument against euthanasia, however, is that it is not ethical. We must ask ourselves if it is more ethical to let people die without more pleasant options. Why should we deny giving people the right to a dignified and peaceful end in order to uphold our own peace of mind? You know, all I seek is to give people the options they deserve, even if they don't choose to use them. Serious legislation must be taken into consideration in each state. The option of euthanasia should be provided in every state. Thank you.